How's it going, folks? Hope you are having a wonderful start to your week. We had Hobby Nightmares yesterday, which was a very, very, very cool one, where we got some tournament stories and other things going on. But today, we are going over... Well, I think it's the day anyway, because we're supposed to be doing this on Tuesday. It may be Thursday by now, though, depending on when this goes up. I recorded it on Monday, so we'll see what happens. But we are doing Legion of the Damned today. And what more can I say? Because the most difficult lore video during the voting process that we just did won. I really should not have been surprised with you lot, you know what I mean? The reason for this is that the Legion of the Damned really take most of their strengths as a force in the lore from the fact that they are not explained at all. They are a force that are just left in the ether. Sure, things are hinted at here and there, but for the most part, the Damned are a mystery, and that is kind of the point. For me to sit here and show you how I change them would simply mean that I take away what makes them the Legion of the Damned in the first place, their mystery. So, instead, I'm going to change not who they are, or the mystery of who they are, or where they come from, but something else entirely. What they do. Now, this will not be a long video like any of my other lore rewrites, because quite simply, there isn't a lot to go on with the Legion of the Damned, and there shouldn't be a lot to go on. Even their rules are in the Legends section of 40k these days. They're not really front and centre of any kind of discourse on Warhammer 40,000 or Games Workshop or anything like that. So, I'm not going to dive into everything about them, like I would with the Iron Hands, or with the Emperor's Children, or whatever. Because they don't have this sprawling backlog of stories to really touch upon. Even with me going into Lexicanum, which I never normally do. I don't like to go on Lexicanum, because not everything on there is verbatim real, you know, some of it is a bit nonsense. I like to look around the community, I like to look on different Reddit posts, I like to look at different forums and things like that, to see where people stand on certain factions. And the Legion of the Damned is really one of those that people tend to leave alone. They really tend to leave them alone and not approach them. And I think the main reason for that is their denseness in what they could or couldn't be. Right? Games Workshop very rarely tell us anything concrete about the Legion of the Damned and what they do and what they don't do. The only thing we do know is that they appear, and then they disappear in quick succession. So rather than get into an in-depth discussions about the good and bad parts of their lore like I normally do, I'll give a brief overview of what works for me about the Damned. Let's be honest, what we know about them, in truth, fits into a small cup, and even that, and even the great lore folks online, and there are many great lore people online who are much better than me, right, who cover them, do so with no small amount of fan fiction and allegory thrown in. I've noticed this quite a lot. Even when I've done my research with other people on YouTube, when looking at their videos on the Legion of the Damned, there is a lot of hearsay in what they say about the Legion of the Damned. Corroborating all of that has not been easy. This has been one of the longest processes for research that I've had to do for one of the shortest videos. But yeah, there we go. This channel is not about that. It's not really about fan fiction. I know, it's crazy, but here we go. It's about separating what works and what doesn't before giving you some alternatives in a clearly marked section of the video that may as well be surrounded by hazard lights, such as the absolute state of my writing. Okay? Any of you who've watched any of my Emperor videos or any of the other lore that I do will know that, you know, quite a lot of the stuff that I come up with in my lore is absolute nonsense and tends to, like, go off the rails a little bit. But, you know, we'll see how this goes, shall we? The Legion of the Damned... I mean, look at that preamble. That was 4 minutes of preamble. We didn't even get away from the composite game screen yet, you know? 4 minutes of preamble just to explain why this video isn't going to be the same as the others, because that's what the Legion of the Damned do, and thank you for voting on it, because you've ruined my Monday. Nah, I'm joking. I love doing this, but, you know, it is what it is. The Legion of the Damned have been called everything by in-law sources. From a psychic backlash of the Drop Site Massacre, which is really cool, to a group hallucination in the time of need of traumatized fighters who ascribe the Legion's characteristics to the Space Marines fighting alongside them. I feel I need to explain that second one. A lot of people, when they see Space Marines in Warhammer 40,000, they don't really get the sheer terror that a Space Marine would bring forth in your mind if you were fighting beside one, even if they were your allies. These are 8-foot-tall men in power armour, not saying very much, with swords that are made of chainsaws. That's fucking terrifying, and you would absolutely be bricking your pants if you ever saw anything like that. Now, imagine for one moment that you're fighting something as horrific as the Tyranids, for example, who are swarming over all of your friends and digesting them right in front of you as they call for help and they reach out to you, and you can't even squeeze the trigger on your las rifle, you are that terrified. Then you see a Space Marine walk past and stomp that son of a bitch into 1,000 pasty pieces. You would think that's some sort of angel. You would be having hallucinations of this person as this amazingly frightening thing that you've seen that's annihilating this force that right just a few seconds ago were breaking your mind, such with the terror that they were inducing in you, right? So that's one part of the 40k lore that I adore. I adore the hearsay sometimes that is in the lore, where very little is actually canon. And when it works, it really works. And I think it really works with the Legion of the Damned, which is why I'm not going to change where they come from very much. The most famous, and the one I am going to use as a jumping off point for my own lore, right, of their origins, is the apparent fate of the Firehawks chapter. The Firehawks were apparently claimed by the Warp during transit, only for the Legion of the Damned, vaguely resembling the chapter, to emerge from the Warp sometime later to aid Imperial forces, seemingly out of nowhere. My take on the Damned should combine the approaches and theories into a single whole. So all of these theories that we have on them into a single whole. There are three main ones, as we just discussed. First one being that they are a psychic backlash of the Horus Heresy, of the legions that fell in the Horus Heresy. Second one, that they are essentially an hallucination brought on by traumatized Imperial Guardsmen and other people. Thirdly, they are literally the Firehawks chapter. I'm going to meld all those together into something vaguely resembling the Legion of the Damned. It's very, very important in any lore rewrite of the Damned, though, is that you never call them by their name. And I'll get into why a little bit later on. Beyond going into a blow-by-blow accounts of their appearance in novels, this is all we have of Legion of the Damned. That's it. I can sit here for hours going over every single appearance that they've had in a novel, and trust me, if I ever got the time I was going to say monetary compensation. That's not the right way of looking at it. If I ever got the wherewithal to do it, I can't take this much time off from teaching to do these videos because I can't afford it, right? If I ever did, then I would love to do a deep lore dive on the Legion of the Damned and go over hours and hours and hours of investigating their appearances in different forms of 40k media to show you, okay, this is where they appear. What are Games Workshop saying about them? We have amazing channels online. People like Amber King, Voldemort, I think even Arch has done a video on the Legion of the Damned in the past. We have Major Kill, all these other guys, right, who are talking about the Legion of the Damned and giving you some really cool in-depth lore. I'm here to basically show you what I like about the lore and how I would mainly change it going forwards, okay? Now, beyond going into, with a fine comb, all of the times they've appeared in different pieces of 40k fiction, I've told you what we know. Those three theories, that's mainly what we know. Not a lot to go on, is it? We don't have a lot to go on. The main reason I don't want to change much about the Legion of the Damned is that I actually like their lore. If I was going to write a faction like the Legion of the Damned, it would look exactly like what Games Workshop have done with them. Keep the mystery, present options to the players who want to take the Legion of the Damned in their own direction, and then move on. So let's do that, shall we? How would I change them? Look at that. I told you it'd be short. I'm not even at the 10-minute mark yet. I'm already at how would I change them. Well, the Legion of the Damned, as I said, should be a combination of all three of the main theories. In my own lore, I would tell their story from the point of view of one of the nameless Marines that makes up their number. His identity is scrubbed away to the point that he does not even remember what chapter he used to call home. So, we keep that mystery. Are they the Firehawks? We don't know. Are they even Legion of the Damned? We don't know, right? All he remembers is pure darkness and pain, and then light, and more pain. His chapter is annihilated after the Gellerfields on their ship malfunction in the warp. Entities swarm into the ship, possessing his brothers and casting untold horrors onto them as their chapter dies in agony in darkness. Then, as if by random, the ship falls into the Astronomicon beam. Yeah, you heard that. You heard that rightly. Not near the Astronomicon, but into it. As they pass the event horizon that leads to the beam of the Emperor's will in the warp, the demons are exorcised from their flesh and given true deaths instantly. This comes at a great cost, however, as most of the brothers are vaporized in this act, and the few that remain are mere spectres residing within their now sealed power armour, burning from within with the Emperor's rage and wrath. They return to real space in spurts, their ship tidally locked in place within the Astronomicon forever, teleported seemingly by his will and the will of his tarot to aid Imperial defenders in areas that will pluck the strands of fate in a way the Emperor finds most pleasing and advantageous. As the Great Rift occurs in the modern 40k setting, the Emperor's power begins to wax and grow. He starts to push the battle barge just slightly outside of the Astronomicon, so it's still there, but just on the outside. The spectres are let loose again and again, and begin appearing as and when they will, their forms remaining within the material universe for longer and longer periods. That'll give us an excuse to bring out a Codex Legion of the Damned. For free, by the way. It should be like a 10-page Codex that's fucking free. Shouldn't be costing any money. Around their ship, several large clumps of debris from other ships that have been stranded in the warp have melded together, creating a vast fortress monastery that is around the size of a large space hulk. A mesmerising puzzle box of pitfalls, fire lane traps, stasis trips, and constantly shifting rooms as the Emperor treats the monastery as his personal plaything, delighting in the demons that attempt to make their way to the heart of the fortress. This links into our version of the Emperor that is coming back in our lore. He's not the same man that went into the throne, right? He's now a much more vindictive and arrogant god. He is now, the mask is off now, right? He enjoys torturing these demons for how dare they come anywhere near his beam of light. Do you know what I mean? At its centre lies the battle barge of the chapter, there growing like the bowels of a gargantuan metal monstrosity. From here the chapter teleports into battle, or simply sends its warriors throughout the monastery to hunt the foul things that attempt to breach their inner sanctum. What we have here is the Emperor's answer to the palaces of the Chaos Gods, created in a mockery of their vanity from real, tangible materials rather than filthy warp stuff. Something that they can never destroy due to its proximity to the Astronomicon and his beam of his will. We never named the warriors as the Legion of the Damned. Let's keep that mystery. But their very existence is a middle finger to the Chaos Gods, an insult, and that is how the Emperor intended them to be. That is how I would rewrite the Legion of the Damned. Yes, it's a lot shorter than normal, but at the end of the day, that's what the Legion of the Damned are. They are literally the Emperor's will made manifest. At least, that's how I choose to interpret them. And I think that's the true beauty of the Legion of the Damned. It's up to you what you make of them. More than any other Imperial faction, aside from maybe the Imperial Guard, the Legion of the Damned, in terms of where they come from, is literally up to you, because nobody knows, right? We have so many conflicting reports and stories and testimonies about who they are, where they come from, and why they do what they do. So whilst I would release this story in the Codex of the Legion of the Damned, right? I wouldn't outright say it's the Legion of the Damned. I would say these are the mind scrubbings of like an engram that we found somewhere of one of the Legion or one of the warriors, right, that was left behind. But I wouldn't say that this is actually a Legion of the Damned warrior, right? You've got to keep that mystery. You have to keep the ambiguity of what makes the Legion of the Damned what they are. How do you do your Legion of the Damned force if you do collect them? Do you collect the firehawks as they are? Do you make them these spectral warriors that are kind of like ghosts? Have you converted any? Feel free to send me some pictures and my email address. It's down below. I love you all a long time. I will speak to you tomorrow for some more Hobby Nightmares. And then towards the end of the week, I may do a Games Workshop story. I've got one in the pipeline that I'm waiting for somebody to send to me, which is why there was no Games Workshop story on Monday, because I've got a good one coming up, but I'm waiting for that person to type it out and send it to me, because, you know, it's just taking a while. I'm leaving them to it, though. I'm not pressuring them. They're busy, so I'm going to wait until that comes in. And once it's in, I'll give it a read. But I love you all a long time. Have a wonderful middle of your week. I will speak to you tomorrow. See you later. Have a good one.